What if the reason someone stops valuing you is not because you did too little, but because you gave too much, too easily, too soon? Because there is one simple boundary that changes everything in how a man feels about you, and most people break it without even realizing it. Think about this honestly. Have you ever noticed how someone starts missing you more the moment you stop chasing them? The moment you stop over-explaining, over-giving, and over-prioritizing them. It feels strange, but there is a pattern behind it. And if you stay with me, you will understand exactly what that pattern is and how one shift in behavior can completely change how you are seen in love and relationships. Women who make men fall in love and stay obsessed for a long time are not the ones who give everything away from the start. They are not constantly texting first, not always sitting and waiting, and not changing their whole life just to stay available. They are not bending themselves in every direction just to prove love or loyalty. Instead, they carry a quiet kind of standard that shapes how they are treated. This one simple boundary changes how a man sees them in his mind. He stops thinking of them as just someone he likes and slowly starts feeling that they are not replaceable. This shift does not come from doing more, but from doing less and staying grounded in self-respect and emotional control. You have been told many things about love that sound beautiful, but do not always work in real life. You have been told that love means giving everything, sacrificing without limits, and proving yourself again and again through endless care. You are told that if you just love harder, things will work out and someone will stay. But this advice often leads to pain, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. It keeps many people stuck in patterns where they give too much and receive too little. What if the real reason relationships fail is not lack of effort, but lack of balance? What if overgiving actually pushes the right person further away instead of bringing them closer, slowly reducing the respect and attraction that was once there? This is not about playing tricks or trying to control someone's feelings. It is about understanding how attraction naturally works in the human mind. There is a psychological pattern that gets activated when something feels valuable, and it is deeply connected to effort and emotional investment. When a man feels he has to put in effort to maintain your attention, something shifts inside his thinking. He becomes more alert, more focused, and more emotionally involved. But when everything is given too easily, without space or challenge, that same interest can slowly fade. This is not about manipulation. It is about how the brain naturally assigns importance based on effort, value, and emotional engagement over time. Most people how love grows in men. They believe closeness alone creates deeper feelings, like constant talking, always being available, and sharing everything immediately will build stronger connection. But in reality, too much availability can sometimes reduce emotional tension. When there is no space, no challenge, and no sense of effort, attraction can lose its intensity. The mind responds strongly to what feels earned, not what feels handed over too quickly. When a man feels he has to step forward, show effort, and maintain your attention through his actions, he begins to value the connection more deeply because it requires something from him emotionally and mentally. There is a simple truth that many people notice in real life, but rarely understand fully. The person who is not overly available often becomes the one who is thought about the most. This is because the mind tends to focus more on what feels slightly out of reach. When someone has a full life, their own direction, and their own boundaries, they naturally create a sense of value around themselves. It is not about ignoring someone or acting cold. It is about having a life that does not completely depend on another person's attention. That balance creates respect, curiosity, and a deeper emotional pull that develops slowly over time without force. When a woman gives up her own space, time, and identity to revolve completely around a man, something important changes in how he experiences her. At first, it may feel comforting, even exciting, but over time, Too much availability can remove the sense of effort and anticipation. When a person becomes the center of someone's entire world too quickly, the natural tension that builds attraction starts to disappear. The connection becomes predictable, and predictability often weakens emotional intensity. This is where many relationships slowly shift from passion into comfort, where care still exists, but the deeper emotional spark starts to fade without anyone clearly noticing when it happened. This does not mean love should be distant or cold. It means love needs balance to stay alive. When someone stops maintaining their own goals, friendships, and personal identity, they begin to lose the very qualities that made them attractive in the beginning. Confidence, independence, and emotional fullness are often what create initial attraction. When those qualities fade, the dynamic in the relationship also changes. The more a person depends emotionally on one relationship alone, the more pressure it creates on the connection. And pressure often replaces natural attraction with emotional dependency, which feels heavy instead of inspiring for the other person involved. Many people do not realize how quickly self-respect can influence attraction. When someone constantly ignores their own needs to meet the needs of another person, they slowly begin to treat themselves as less important. This internal shift does not need to be spoken out loud. It shows up in behavior, tone, and emotional energy. And people naturally respond to that energy. When self-respect is low, attraction often weakens because respect is no longer being modeled in the connection. But when a person clearly values their own time, emotions, and boundaries, it creates a natural sense of admiration and emotional stability in the relationship. Strong relationships are not built on unlimited giving. They are built on mutual respect, where both people maintain their individuality. A healthy connection allows space for both partners to grow separately while still choosing each other. This balance creates long-term emotional stability because neither person feels they are losing themselves. Instead, they feel they are sharing their lives without giving up their identity. This is where emotional safety and attraction can exist together. When boundaries are clear, love becomes more stable, more grounded, and often more deeply connected over time because both people feel valued as individuals. Boundaries are often misunderstood as distance or rejection, but they are actually forms of communication. They show others how you expect to be treated and what you will not accept in your life. A boundary is not about pushing someone away. It is about protecting your emotional space so that connection remains healthy. When someone has clear boundaries, they are not being difficult, they are being clear. This clarity helps others understand how to engage with them in a respectful and meaningful way. Without boundaries, relationships can become unbalanced, with one person giving too much and slowly losing themselves in the process. When a person maintains strong self-respect and clear emotional boundaries, something interesting happens in relationships. They become more naturally respected and often more valued. Not because they are playing games, but because they are not abandoning themselves. This creates a sense of emotional strength that others can feel without explanation. It also encourages healthier effort from the other person because the connection feels earned rather than assumed. Over time, this dynamic builds deeper attraction, not through pressure or control, but through balance, clarity, and emotional stability that supports both people equally. Think about anything valuable in life. Is it ever truly just handed to you without effort or time? The job you are proud of, you worked for it step by step. The achievements that actually matter to you were not given freely. You earned them through consistency and patience. Even the respect you receive from others is something you build slowly through your actions, your character, and how you show up over time. So why would love be any different from this pattern? When something requires effort, emotional investment, and consistency, the human mind naturally assigns it more value. This is not just logic, it is how psychology works in everyday life. What we struggle for becomes meaningful, and what comes too easily is often taken lightly without even realizing it. This is why the women who stay on a man's mind are not the ones who give everything instantly. They are the ones who maintain a sense of mystery, personal direction, and emotional independence. They love fully, but they never lose themselves in that love. They give with care, but they never empty themselves completely for someone else. They are present for the right person, but they are not available for just anyone who comes and goes. There is a natural balance in the way they carry themselves, and that balance creates respect. They are not chasing attention. They are not over-explaining their worth. They are simply living in alignment with their own value, which naturally changes how others respond to them. Boundaries also create emotional safety. Even though many people misunderstand this, a lot of women believe that being completely open, always available, and endlessly accommodating will make a man feel secure and closer. But in reality, without structure or clarity, it can create confusion instead of comfort. When a person does not know where they stand or what is expected, they can feel uncertain in the connection. But when boundaries exist, there is clarity. And clarity allows someone to understand how to love you in a healthier and more stable way. It removes guesswork and replaces it with direction, which makes the connection easier to navigate for both people involved. The psychology behind this is simple but often ignored. When a man understands your boundaries, he also understands your emotional structure. He knows what is acceptable and what is not. This allows him to show up in a more intentional way instead of guessing or assuming. It creates a sense of emotional order in the relationship. Instead of confusion, there is direction. Instead of imbalance, there is structure. And this structure actually helps attraction grow because it allows both people to participate in the relationship with awareness rather than uncertainty or emotional chaos that slowly drains connection over time. At the same time, boundaries are not only about the other person. They are deeply connected to how you see yourself. When you maintain your standards, you are reinforcing your self-respect. When you reinforce your self-respect, your confidence naturally becomes stronger. And when your confidence becomes stronger, your presence becomes more grounded and attractive. This is not something forced. It happens naturally when you stop abandoning yourself for the sake of keeping someone else comfortable. It creates a cycle where self-worth leads to stronger energy, and stronger energy leads to healthier connections. The core idea behind this boundary is not about controlling someone else's behavior. It is about refusing to lose yourself in the process of loving someone. Because when a person starts making their entire life revolve around one relationship, they slowly begin to disappear from their own world. Their time, their attention, and their energy all become centered on someone else. And while this may feel like love, it often removes the very qualities that created attraction in the first place. Independence, passion, personal goals, and emotional fullness slowly get replaced by dependence and emotional overinvestment. This is where imbalance begins to form in relationships. One person becomes overly invested, while the other starts to adjust to that constant availability. Over time, the dynamic shifts. What once felt exciting can slowly turn into expectation. And when something becomes expected instead of chosen, its emotional intensity starts to fade. This is not because love disappears, but because the natural tension that supports attraction is no longer present. Without space, without effort, and without balance, emotional energy becomes flat, even if care still exists in the connection. A strong relationship is not built on losing yourself. It is built on two individuals who maintain their identity while choosing each other. When both people continue to live full lives outside the relationship, they bring more energy, more perspective, and more emotional strength into the connection. This creates a healthier environment where love does not feel like pressure or responsibility, but like a shared choice. And shared choice is what keeps attraction alive over a longer period of time, because both people continue to actively invest rather than emotionally disappear into each other. Boundaries should never be misunderstood as emotional distance or punishment. They are simply a form of clarity. They show how you expect to be treated and how you choose to engage with others. A boundary is not about pushing someone away. It is about making sure that the relationship stays balanced and respectful. When someone understands your boundaries, they understand how to connect with you in a more stable and meaningful way. Without them, relationships can become unclear, one-sided, and emotionally draining for the person who is giving more than they receive. When you start living with clear emotional boundaries, something important begins to change in your relationships. You stop overgiving in situations where there is no balance. You stop prioritizing people who only treat you as an option. And slowly, you begin to redirect that emotional energy back into your own life. This shift creates space for personal growth, emotional healing, and stronger self-awareness. You become more centered, more calm, and more in control of your own emotional direction instead of being pulled by someone else's inconsistency. This change also affects how others respond to you. When you are no longer constantly available, constantly chasing, or constantly adjusting yourself for someone else, your presence naturally becomes more noticeable. People begin to sense that your attention has value because it is not freely given without thought. This does not come from manipulation. It comes from self-respect. And self-respect changes how you are perceived in every kind of relationship because it signals emotional strength and personal stability. Eventually, you begin to attract people who match your energy instead of draining it. People who are genuinely interested in you will naturally start stepping forward with more consistency and effort because they recognize that your time and attention are not unlimited. And those who were only present for convenience will slowly fall away because the imbalance no longer benefits them. This is not loss, it is alignment. It clears space for relationships that are more mutual, more stable, and more emotionally balanced. The most important part of this entire understanding is consistency. Boundaries only work when they are maintained, not when they are applied temporarily. If you set a standard and then abandon it the moment someone gives you attention, the cycle repeats itself. But when you stay consistent, people begin to understand that your boundaries are real. They are not emotional reactions. They are part of who you are. And that is what creates long-term respect and emotional stability in any connection. When both people in a relationship operate with mutual respect and balanced effort, the dynamic changes completely. There is no chasing, no emotional exhaustion, and no resentment building up silently. Instead, there is a steady exchange of effort, care, and attention. Both people feel valued, both people feel seen, and neither person feels like they are carrying the entire emotional weight alone. This balance is what allows relationships to stay healthy over time without breaking down into dependency or emotional fatigue. In the end, the boundary is not about changing someone else. It is about returning to yourself. It is about remembering your own value, your own life, and your own emotional space. When you stop lowering your standards for the sake of keeping someone, you naturally start attracting people who are willing to meet you at your level. And that is where real connection begins. Not in overgiving, but in mutual recognition, mutual effort, and mutual choice that grows stronger with time. In conclusion, the real foundation of any strong connection is not overgiving or losing yourself for someone else, but maintaining self-respect, balance, and emotional clarity. When you value your own time, energy, and boundaries, you naturally create healthier relationships where effort is mutual and respect is present on both sides. Love becomes more stable when both people choose each other while still keeping their individuality intact, instead of one person carrying all the emotional weight. The key message is simple. When you stop making someone your entire priority while they treat you as an option, you begin to realign your life with people who are genuinely willing to invest in you as well. This shift is not about distance or control, but about balance and self-worth. And when that balance exists, relationships become more natural, more respectful, and more meaningful over time.